Alright, so I'm once again replaying Dying Light, which at this point is probably my favorite video game I've ever played, if not at least top 5. So I'm restarting from the very beginning. The two, I guess, introductory missions to the game, and I just wanted to show off this, I guess, few little things you can do at the very beginning of the game to rank up very quickly during the second story mission. So I'm just going to just quickly show basically some of these few little tricks you can do that can help you rank up fast for new players when you start the game from the beginning. Alright, so during the first assignment, after you've gotten your shot from Dr. Zera and your first mission in the firecrackers from Spike, here are the few things you can do before you actually begin preparing for the night mission. So first, this is all you've unlocked so far on the map if you actually just went straight from the tower to the courtyard. If you zoom into the bottom right, there's a single house right here by itself. Place the waypoint. And then, I'm going to do a lot of cuts to save time for travel and doing the missions. So once you traveled to the bottom corner, you'll see this hut right here. Now inside there's this dead guy named Roshan who you would counter later in the game, but the reason why it's just coming here first is because he has a gun with 4 ammo. Now 4 ammo is not a lot to work with, but it is useful to have a gun at the very beginning of the game with a little bit of ammo, and you can easily access more later, but I'll get to that in a sec. After getting the gun, I've already set the next waypoint marker here. If you go all the way to the bottom right corner, there's a small little island in the water. So, once again cut to that island. Okay, so once you've swam out to the island, you can see the bridge here, the stadium there, and Old Town there. And if you look right here on the little island, there's this dead body with a sword called Excalibur. Now you'll have to hold the square button for a few minutes to unlock the sword, but I'm just going to skip past that. Alright, I skipped ahead to the end because you got to hold it, like I said, for about 3 minutes. And if you let go, you have to start over. But once you've held it for a few minutes, you unlock Excalibur, which is one of the strongest weapons you can unlock, and will come back later once you... Yep. And then you just unlocked quite a bit. So you got the blueprint and already Survivor ranked up really fast. Now on to the next part. Alright, I've already swam back to the mainland. So after you've got Excalibur, there are a few buildings and a couple little locations west of the courtyard and south of the bazaar that I'd recommend going to. So the first one is actually just southwest of the courtyard, this little area right here. Okay, so this first checkpoint is right here, just west of the courtyard. Now, there are a few GRE crates, these orange crates, that will appear throughout the game just randomly when they airdrop, but there are some that will appear multiple times and will respawn after you've turned them in to the Quartermaster Spike. So, and this is near a cave you'll go to later to get a set of mushrooms to create a cloak potion. So you'll have the drop, and in this case, flares. It's good to go and bulk up on these early on in the game, so that way when you experience night the first few times, you'll have them. Then there are 2 small buildings just north of here. The first is this building right here, which is between the courtyard and the bazaar. You go inside here, you will find a shovel, which can be a useful weapon early on, and then a couple of baskets, which might have some stuff in them. Because a lot of these collectibles you can use to upgrade your weapons, your health, or just for side missions. And if you climb to the very top, there's a flag right here. And collecting flags up your agility level. Just past the first building is the other important building in this area. Now, there are 5 or 6 pharmacies in the slums. And this is probably our... Oh, didn't even see that zombie there. Sometimes they pop out of the swords like that. Now, if you climb the back side of this pharmacy, because both the front and back doors are blocked, it's a bit difficult, but if you climb this, jump and then quickly reach, you'll then get to the top of the building, and inside, is a second flag. And if you go inside, there's a bunch of supplies you can loot. And again, useful early on to have them. So after you've looted the building and the nearby ambulance for some medkits, you follow the tracks just past it to a cave nearby. You will reach the first of several quarantine zones that are playable throughout the game. Now these are difficult to complete if you're not fully ranked up, but for at least most of the ones in the slums, you can access them early on, and you can actually partially complete them to help you rank up quickly. So, find the door.
Spike, it's Crane. There's a building here covered in quarantine tape. You know what it is?
I sure do. You're looking at the original quarantine ground zero. The first infected were moved there from the hospitals when the outbreak started. Things fell apart pretty quick, and the building was abandoned. It's chock full of riders, but it's also chock full of supplies. Even Rise's people haven't been able to crack it.
So I would recommend keeping this in mind, because you can't access it right now, but it's at least important to have it marked on your map. Well, actually, no, wait, you can go into it, sorry. So, we'll go in. Oh, hold on. Didn't pause. Okay, so most quarantine zones have 4 or 5 drops you can retrieve. Now, for this one, I'd recommend just getting the first one. So just go into the train car right next to the entrance. Usually someone in this chest, and then just collect the first drop. If you want to, you could try to go for the second or third, but it's a risk going for it if you haven't really ranked up yet or don't have a lot of good weapons. After exiting the tunnel quarantine zone, I would then recommend you go past the tower and just below the radio antenna here, just north of the tower, to this group of buildings right here, where once you hit this building, you get a good view of the end of the bridge, the stadium, and Old Town, and right here is another flag. Alright, already just ranked up twice with the agility. And after you get that flag, there's a building right here, just north of the first assignment safe zone, right here, on the other side of the road, where you'll find yet another flag. And in this area, I'll show you where you can find 3 more of those static drops. So right west of the flag, or east of the flag, you have to be careful. There are a couple of chemicals barrels that spilt here that lead to an actual chemical plant where you'll find the first drop. Best to jump over the zombies onto the barrels, and then over the barrels down to the plant. So once you reach that plant right here, you'll see 2 crates. One's already been opened, but here you got another drop and some medical supplies. And I believe this one will disappear after a certain point in the game, but it's best to get it early on. Then you'll go east, going towards the ferry harbor, for the next of the 3 drops. So the second, there's a small bridge right here on your way to the ferry harbor, and under it is another one of these static drops. And again, I believe this one will stay throughout the whole game, so getting it early on helps. Now the third one's a bit of a challenge. So the third drop in this area, just past Fisherman's Village and under the bridge, all the way at the end, if you swim out past the gap in the bridge, the third one is submerged deep underwater. So, again, get myself there to save time. Alright, so once you swim out, right here under the edge of the bridge that connects outside the city, You're going to have to just drop all the way down. And near these sunken cars, there is another drop. Oh, and there's also a zombie statue, but the statues aren't really worth anything. They're just little collectibles. But it's not like you really get anything for getting them, but they should be right here. Did not think this through. Come on, I know it's like... Oh, right here. Right next to me the whole time. And again, I believe this one stays throughout the whole game. Now, you kind of close early on with this one. At least with holding your breath, since you don't have a lot of stamina yet. So you collect it. And then you quickly go all the way back up to the surface. Okay, that took a tiny bit too long, so I'm losing health. And then Ferry Harbor is just north of here. So after getting that underwater drop, you can either go back to land and travel north, or just swim north to Ferry Harbor, which you'll encounter at least one of only 2 merchants outside the tower this early in the game. And if you can find enough zombies and collecting money, you could probably buy a couple weapons and some other supplies that you could use early on. I'll just rank up what I can. Didn't have enough for gauze because I hadn't really been fighting that many zombies yet. And like I said, if you want to, you could probably get a couple of weapons here as well. And there's a reason why I recommend going to Ferry Harbor, even if you don't need to yet, because if you look just north of Ferry Harbor on the map, there are these caves just north of here. If you go to, you'll encounter a small horde of zombies, but if you do this, it helps you rank up very quickly. So go forward. So you go north, you enter the cave right here. And this is part of the reason why I said you might want to get some weapons. So and also, if you haven't already, craft a couple of med kits. Once you're inside this cave, you're going to encounter a few dozen zombies. Most of them you can just hit or kick a few times once they begin to appear. I'm going to cut ahead until I get the last one, though. Okay, I'm almost done fighting the zombies in here. Remember that shovel I recommended you grab earlier? It's a good tool for fighting these, since you can't upgrade it later. So you just hit them a few times. Once again, got a lot more. And you can loot all the zombies for money, little tools, supplies. And then there's one more crate right here, which is a little bit harder, but if you can get it, also some stuff inside worth collecting. After you exit the cave, you will then go northwest, here, to this area near the very top of the map, near the construction site, where, once you've gone north to the construction site, and you're inside, run and jump to this middle area of this unfinished, I guess, road connecting it to the tunnel. It's also another safe zone you'll be able to unlock later. Part of the reason why I'm doing this helps save you time finding them, for yet another flag. After exiting the construction site, you're going to go southwest, past these buildings to this little area as a shortcut to 2 other quarantine zones. Once you exit that clearing, near another one of the antenna towers, there's 2 quarantine zones here. One is just south. It's the Stuffed Turtle store quarantine zone. You go inside. Similar to the tunnel, I would not recommend doing the entire quarantine zone here, but you can get 3 drops very quickly. So you gotta be careful because the floor is electrified. If you follow this plank, time it just right, and jump, did not. So unlock a drop there. Turn off the power.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
Now there are 2 more in here, but unless you have enough health and or medkits and weapons, I would not recommend fighting all these zombies. Instead, get a second drop here and a couple of lockpicks, and then a third one right here, and then just exit the building. Again, you can go for the other 2 if you want, but this is just to rank up quickly without having to actually do too much hard work. After exiting the Stuffed Turtle, you'll go back north, past the antenna tower, to that apartment building right there. Traveling north to the underground parking lots. Now, of all the quarantine zones in the slums, this is probably the hardest one because it's the only one where you'll consistently encounter volatiles. But there is a way where you can sneak past a volatile and get 2 drops very quickly. So once inside the underground parking, if you're fast, you quickly go left where a volatile is nearby, grab this drop, run back to the other side. Again, if you're quick, you can avoid the volatiles, but there are a couple of zombies here. Wasn't fast enough, but thankfully I at least got the second drop. And then you can just leave this one, because trust me, with the volatiles, this is probably the hardest thing to do early on in the game. I found out the hard way the very first time I played this game, free roaming, and I accidentally got in here and died a few times before I gave up. After exiting the underground parking, and your next door will be another safe zone, you'll cross a bridge here past the parking lot, or the bus parking lot, bus stop, whatever it was, to the Slabs apartment buildings, where, once you're in the Slabs region, you'll go to this building right here near what will be a courtyard safe zone, and on top of it, you'll find yet another flag, and the last of the antenna towers in the slums. Now there are 2 more flags on the slums, or the Slabs buildings, but I would recommend waiting until you get the grappling hook to go after them, because this one is fairly easy to climb, right here with the scaffolding, the other 2 not so much. And then you'll go south towards this little building over here. So you're going to see 2 quarantine zones just south of the Slabs. First is the Sunny Apartments quarantine zone here. Now this one doesn't have any drops, it's just fighting a bunch of zombies. But I'd recommend skipping this one for now unless you really feel confident that you can grind just hitting zombies over and over again inside, because there are some weapons you can unlock in GRE crates, but I don't think it's worth it, at least yet, doing this one. And if you go all the way to the western part of the map, you'll find what will be the another quarantine zone, but this one you won't be able to unlock yet until you finish the tutorial levels. This is one of those bonus DLC ones, but it's just up north of Rice's Garrison here. So you'll already have it on your map going to this quarantine zone. If you exit the tunnel, follow the train tracks to the bridge, you'll see the Ron School here. You'll see nearby, once again, this way, the bazaar, basically to all the way down back near where you were. And if you turn south this way, you'll encounter 2 more important things. If you travel just down the bridge, you'll see the last of these GRE crates. Now this one, unlike the rest, doesn't have any drops, but it has flares, some cigarettes, and some ammo. Now I haven't been using the pistol yet, for 2 reasons. One, I think you have to rank up to like rank 10 or 12 to actually unlock the pistol, and I want to save the ammo for the first story mission and a couple of side missions you'll get after you finish the tutorial. But if you go further south, if you go a little south, you'll see the last few important landmarks to get familiar with before you actually begin the story quest for assignment. Here is the last quarantine zones, which you can't unlock yet until later on in the game once you've encountered a toad, because this is full of toads. If you look over here, you'll see what will be Ghazi's house, which you'll encounter later for a side quest, which I'll get to. And then, if you... hold on, I'm trying to get out of here. Other side of this road over here... Oh, it's over there. You'll see the, I think it's like some sort of junkyard for a side quest you'll encounter later. So that's all the stuff you can encounter before you even really begin first assignment, to help you rank up very quickly early on. So once you've circled all of the slums, you'll then begin first assignment. And something I'd recommend for players who want to also rank up their fighting against zombies if they haven't already. This building right here, right south of the safe zone, If you pull this switch, and if you use a firecracker, unless you've already made some noise, it'll attract some zombies here, and you can either kick or just push them, and that will help rank you up a little as well. Doing this a few times. Plus, it's just kind of fun watching the zombies fry. And then again, after you've done that a few times, you can turn off the switch or let it run its course, and you can loot them for supplies. So as you continue with the first assignment, you'll have to eventually restore power at this distribution panel station, and you encounter this guy. Now, normally this would be a challenge for your first real threat of a zombie fight, unless you have a gun. One or two good shots to his head and he'll go down. And then you can collect his rebar. And then continue with the first assignment mission. You'll finish it, and then... So after you finish the rest of the mission for first assignment, you'll spend the night in the safe zone you unlocked earlier. And then you'll have to go back and talk to Spike. But on your way back talking to Spike, I recommend you make one last stop. Once you've returned to the tower, go to the quartermaster.
Thanks, great job.
You can turn in all the drops you collected earlier in the game. Help you rank up. And now that you've done that, you can go here to the shop and encounter the vendor or merchant, trader, whatever you call these guys. And then you can sell some of the stuff you've collected up to this point and buy some of your equipment here. So you'll be able to rank up 3 or 4 ranks of Survivor, Agility, and Power just by doing all this and essentially the first 2 story missions and all the things you can collect throughout the game. Well, at least by searching the slums, at least. Alright, like I said, that's all. And if you do all this, it should take you an hour, 2 hours tops, even for players who may struggle early on. And if you want to grind fighting more zombies and doing a lot more climbing, you could probably go up another rank or 2, but I doubt you'd really get much higher than 6 just from the first story mission. But like I said, that's all I wanted to show you. And hopefully for new players of Dying Light, this helps you rank up a little quickly early on in the game before you really get into the actual game once you finish the tutorial missions. Alright, that's all I got for today. Have a good day. Take care.